Sí, sí, la escucho bien. Ahorita no hablo porque estoy con el niño.
Pero
Ah, ¿puedo
precisamente
ir
a ti
hablando?
ahorita necesito
Aló,
saber.
pero es que yo escucho bien.
Yo escucho
Y
bien.
bueno, anda. Aló. Uy, estamos viendo al presidente de Colombia que... Aló, aló. We were listening to the national anthem of the Republic of Colombia. Well, Holman Morris or the General Journey said that there are good news for the gestures and the love of Gustavo Petro and the foreign minister. Let's listen to President Gustavo Petro. Let's go to the principal stage. We see there is a president and he's about to talk. So there is a Bolivar Square full of people supporting Gustavo Petro and saying no to the aggressions of United States. We listen that the people is chanting to the president of the Republic of Colombia, in which they are joined together to reject the actions of the United States against Colombia. That's the reason why they're gathered there to support the president and to make respect the sovereignty. So we listen with all the love of the world to all the workers, educational communities, peasants, sellers, enterprise, representatives of association of workers, organizations in defense of labor, health personnel, mom, head of the home, elders, people with disabilities in situation of disabilities, homeless, LGBTQ plus community, ethnics, indigenous people, Afro descendants, leaders of social movements, and to the people, to the Colombian people in general. Greetings to our foreign minister, secretary general, heroes, all the government, so I won't get enough time to name them all. Well, the idea of this mobilization, this national mobilization, people is chanting, Petro, my friend, people is with you, over and again, Petro, my friend, the people is with you, showing their support. The idea of this mobilization is that is full in the principal squares of the country. In the city of Bogota is full. I don't know how many times this square has got full. And the only one that has made it is for 15 years ago. Well, what? The idea was and is to communicate against the verbal threat that happens no long ago from part of the US president that Is better is what we have always made in some phases of life. That is the defense, the fundamental defense is made by the people here in Colombia. And that's the idea. Give instructions of how this defense is made. But in the middle of this debate of these 2 or 3 days that has been going through, today I have a speech and I have to give another. That's no easy. The first speech was really tough because I know about war, so I lived I lived war a long time ago, but now there are drones, anti-drones, etc. But there's always a people that's never change. It's made by the people. I know that if someone tries to hurt me, literally, for the history of Colombia, for the magnitude of the support, the long the government is, the more is the support. Contrary of what's always, but what is going to happen is that the Colombian people will get into the conflict, and it will be repeated in the 2 centuries of republic. We don't have to explore that much. We all know, and that I try to avoid it for years. This was the process of peace to get away the violence, and we have made it, but violence, as all we know, continue in Colombia, little less. But in these, the media outlets, as always, on their owners, they help us. This conflict, this verbal conflict, so far has been made by Colombians. Not because they don't hate each other outside. No, because there's not really enemies, but we are not enemies of any country of the world. So this is made because of the Colombian situation. That, as we know in the recent history, there is always make us to civil war since April 9 of 1948. We have 300,000 people. That's a genocide. And the beginning of the genocide is a complete ignorant and brutal as has been governed in Colombia. But today, the earns of elite, the oligarchy, I call it, that has holds repeatedly the exclusion of the people and to exclude it of their wealth that they appropriate of it. Well, they use violence. It's not only like in the U.S. that there is less inequality. That's why people go there, because some people can has the opportunities. Their fridge can get full, own houses and cars, and that attract the Colombians because here it is difficult to fill the fridge, but break it. It's been my goal from always to make this social justice here in Colombia. The data, I will repeat the data we have gave, but shows the fact that we have the half of the death and famine and death from famine in children. The half that do let us, we made it in 3 years. We did it thanks to 90,000 professionals, mostly professional women, professional nurses, doctors, psychologists, because, and that's Trump, right? It's not the president that is sick. Violence from 25 years has affected us a society and the regions of conflict. There is much people mentally ill because they have seen massacres or bombs. What happened in Venezuela? We have lived, but for a lot of years, a lot of bombs, massacres, etc. And it's been decreasing. I'll talk with the militia tomorrow later, but the concrete result of 3 years, official data, official data and satellite from our fight against narco traffic. I'll give you two facts. The cocoa agriculture, the growth of Duque was a 5 times bigger than the growth of this government. That is, it's not even the 10% of all the period of the term, my pardon. In the case, Duque was 100% in all his term. Then, then we would have done is to stop the growth with another fact. For December 31st, we made 200,000 of incauted. There's change voluntarily. 31,000 hectares subscribes. I went to Roberto Pañal personally. The map is different. That is there. It shows just one coca growth in all the littoral, the Pacific littoral, but there are plenty of the Afro is taken out the same. The coca there in Roberto Payam. I visited them personally. I took them, a few of them. I planted cacao, and that must be growing. That's the logic. That's the idea. Because Duque failed and doubled the hectares of coca plants because he passed from the voluntary substitution to the forced one, and when the peasants get hit, they will react, and armed groups will be stronger, and that's what happened to Duque because he don't love the people. He attacked the people, and the answer was more violence. All the groups that are today were generated except for the ENL in the Duque government. But what happens now? And what affects us now? The same politics that are responsible, first, of having relations with the narco traffic, and second, of have made nothing of peace, as they said, and condemned then Colombia to the mayor has numbers of coca plant. It was a result of making nothing of peace, but now guns, drones, our sounds, drum bombings from the military and the police. We have them, but those are the same responsibles of this crisis. Let's call it diplomatic crisis by now, verbal by now, that has erupted between U.S. and Colombia. And I won't say that the president of Colombia, as the outlet media says, to follow the political agenda the owners of the media outlets of the extreme right has ch- like they wanted to the helicopters came here just as in Caracas and they hit them with missiles, like forgetting that in that palace is the Bolivar sword and that I have to take care of it as a member of the Guardians of Bolivar Swords because it was configured with poets, with Latin American poets in our style. But well, that lie created in Miami, Washington, etc. by Colombian politics that we all saw go there. It was public. I'm not like inventing anything. That lie back said publicly and others secretly. There made Trump that I was like with fabric plans, but there are not fabric in here. Like getting like from them with missiles is done because that will be built in just little days because there are necessitated people, there are people in need that get in there. But well, there tell Trump that he said there is no sustentation. They tell them that I was Maduro's partner. The extreme right there created the thesis that there was a cartel de los soles, and then Petra is the second half. And they forgot, they didn't remember him because of my fight is known on the media outlets that I have been in 20 days, in 20 years. My partner continues risking my life, my family exile in Canada, and there has been many. There has been people trying to kill me many times. One of the builders of this situation took the car. He disappeared, and it was the proof. And he said to the people of Colombia that they were rocks, but professional analysis made in Canada. For instance, informatics said that they were automatic shot, and they paid Venezuelans here just arriving. They didn't have idea of us, and they threw rocks to hide the coup d'etat, and they made rocks and things made not by Colombians. So that's just what happened. But there was an attempt, one more against the presidential candidate of the Progress that happened here in secret. And won the elections, Duque won the elections, but now this political group that's winning votes and to defeat us and to overthrow the government. So by so we were the first force, the political force in Colombia, and it was not enough the light in Colombia because the media outlets use it daily, and the Colombian people not believe in lies. They saw truth in that way. Well, they made Duque go there looking for violence again, as it was not enough to kill Jorge Eliezer Gaitan. and 700,000 we have since that day to date. 700,000 kills, the majority for sectors, political sectors, narco traffics, and that is genocide. That's called genocide. And the same that found and create and they destroying the livelihood and security and vigilance, not security, because it's different. To look at security with people they were violating Antioquia people. That's why you have. That's why you have the brothers of the president that I denounced in 2007's denunciation. Today is not Petro's debate. Today it is a judicial truth. I know because they take it. Magistrates takes two, and a doctor in economy made studies and for nothing like he was not accused of stealing one coin or to Velasco, but they used Christmas to screw Christmas because they had not judged that it was the judge that violates because a guarantee judge can surpass what is asked by the prosecution's office, and none of them ask for jail, and they are in jail, and thus with registered and at the time of defense, there has no defense yet. But in turn, Santiago Uribe Vélez is outside and has 700 killings related to his group of cleaning group. It's called that I denounced in 2007, and him, my family, with a paramilitary of they left. They don't know my blood family, but why he's not in jail, but the people that were my ministers are in jail and not them. But that indicates that they made and they cheat Trump with their allies in the Florida state. The people that speak Spanish really well, they cheat Trump. It's my opinion. And he said that something is absurd to some Colombian citizen that Petro is the narco trafficking chief, and Petro was almost killed for time, and that I took jail not because I have a judicial faculties, but the faculty, parliamentary faculty, to investigate, and I spent 10 years of my life at risk against machineries that kill 300,000 Colombians, primarily treason in its relation with the political power, because the extension of narco traffic of cocaine in Colombia to the world is due to an alliance of narco traffickers, armed narco traffickers and killers with the 35% of the Senate that Mancuso said, and that I found in some regions, and I denounced it publicly, and the Supreme Court of Justice, another, assumed the risk, interfered in their phones to the magistrates of taken to jail the genocides because they are genocides, and Uribe took us to look some other journalists and me and my family and other political opposition between them Borja. And at that moment, there was a commission to the Tolima of paramilitary with 200 millions of pesos with the objectives of killing Borja, which is dead now today, and me. Ramillo was first there and immediately took him to us. And effectively, the chief of the commission regretted. I must have said, like, an angel. Oh, energies. Yeah, almost. All the people that wants to kill me, they are killed before, and they all partners. That happens to me. I don't know if this is a jaguar. That happened in this case. The chief commanders get till they were trained in Tolmaida. I never had the name, but then the narco just happened right now to the person that was going to get me a missile in my airplane. Their partner killed him at the jail of Colombia in Ecuador, going through in Ecuador's land. They have Colombia, they have Ecuador, my partner. They destroyed Ecuador by violence because there's been effective our fight, our controls. They went to export not from Colombia but for Ecuador. Well, this is like to show how Trump was cheated. He's no dumb. He can say other things, but he's not dumb. And then of what happened in Venezuela, that is illegal in my opinion, in the norms of the nation. Well, we are facing some struggles, but what is going to happen is we are waiting for this to start again because remember we are alive and well, President Petro went to the Bolivar Square to talk with the people and tell them the facts that is going through Colombia for the years of his presidency, and also what happened on his call in his talk with the U.S. President Donald Trump after the years ago. The people from the from the Colombian far right went and said Trump lies, and we are waiting for these to get ready. Let's remember we are live, and this is in the framework of the threats that the United States made to the Colombian country and the Colombian government after what happens in Venezuela. Let's remember that the past January the 3rd, the Venezuelan president was kidnapped by the U.S. government in an illegal attack that they made in the midnight or early hours of the morning, as you can call it, because it was 2 a.m. local time, August time. and the Venezuelan president and his wife, the first combatant Celia Flores, was kidnapped. The U.S. Military forces also bombed the city of Caracas, and they bombed some residential areas, military areas, strategic areas, and this was something that I really happened here.
Se perdió en Bogotá con los barrios populares de Bogotá. Cuando ya vi ese desastre, terminé ayudando, pero ya La Paz se había enredado. Y Bogotá cambió en la siguiente elección con Santos y lo eligió. Nos hizo caso en cierta forma nuestra solicitud de no volver a caer en gobiernos de violencia. Bien.
Violence governments, but what happened yesterday?
Ayer en la
Yesterday,
prensa
that the press,
colombiana
Colombian press,
empezó un rumor
started a rumor
público
public
de un barco de Estados
that a
Unidos
U.S.
en
ship
agua colombiana.
in Colombian
Y yo estaba en
waters,
el mar.
and I was at the sea.
Yo dije, no, pues ya
No, but
tengo
I
compromiso
have
porque
nothing to
y los
defend
que en
myself.
sirenas salgo la
But
guardia de
at
sirenas
least
con
there are sirens, and I had a siren's guard, but
una ballena azul.
a blue
Total es
whale,
que
but well,
era mentira.
it was a lie.
Era un barco del cual
It
no
was a
tuve
ship
noticia
that
de su
I
destino.
had no news
No
about its
supe si estaba
destiny.
armado
I
o
didn't know it
era
was
mercante
armed or it was
y
merchant,
salía de Venezuela.
and it was from Venezuela.
Pasó por aguas colombianas
It went
y
through
no
Colombian
alcanzamos a
waters,
tomarlo. Mi
and
orden
we
fue
didn't
tomar el
take
barco
the
no
ship.
disparar antes para saber
We wanted to
quiénes
take the ship,
estaban
no
y por qué.
shot before, to
Bueno, todo
know
lo corriente.
what people were there,
Y no sé qué pasó.
and I don't know what happened,
Y eso obviamente puso
and
en
that
alerta a
obviously
todos
made an alert all
nuestra realidad.
a reality, put in
Venía
alert a
después de la
reality
amenaza verbal. Si
that
no
happened
somos
after the
prudentes,
very threat that if
pues
we're not
tendríamos un
prudent,
poco de gente en la
well,
calle
we
o
had a lot of
dispuesta a
people in the
playas
streets, in the coast,
por
in the
sí mismo
beaches,
dispuesta a
by
defender
themselves,
el territorio de Colombia.
willing to defend the Colombian territory.
Que era de lo que venía a hablar hoy.
That is what I was going to talk
Tuve que
today,
cambiar el
but I had to
discurso
change my speech.
porque en medio de
Because
la
in the
disputa
middle of this
verbal
dispute, this verbal
con Trump
dispute with Trump,
por redes,
by the
me
social
prendieron que no
media,
debía
they
usar
told me
redes
that
para
I
cosas
had
de
no
esas.
use social media and
Estamos
that things.
incomunicados, ¿qué
If
vamos?
we are
Vamos a
communicated,
jugar.
what are we going to
La
use?
incomunicación
The
con el gobierno
communication
Trump
with the Trump's government.
desde el principio que se
From the beginning
posicionaron,
that
como hablé
the
4 veces
positions
con
I
Petro,
talked with Biden
problemas,
4 times, there
esa
was not a problem, but
incomunicación
that in
tal
communication
como
with
lo informa Habermas
that Haberman said
genera violencia
generates violence,
real.
real violence, and
Trump, después del
Trump
debate
them
en
after the
redes,
debate from social media
tuvo otra versión.
had another version,
Y hoy
and
hemos
today
hablado
we
por
talk
teléfono
by
por
our
primera vez
phone
desde que es
for the
presidente.
very first time since he is a president.
Obviamente yo tenía ahí
I
mi tiempo
obviously had
llegar aquí
my
porque solo antes de
thing.
llegar aquí se
I took my
requería
time to arrive here, so it lasted like an hour before I came
dejó
here.
hablar.
He let me talk,
Entonces yo
so
no
I
hablar tanto
I tried not to talk that much, but
arriba. Y en la conversación
and in the conversation I just touched two topics, not to get too long,
y una solicitud
and a solicitation and an asking
establezcan las
to establish the communications direct between foreign ministry and the president.
eso pedí.
That's what I asked.
Si no se dialoga,
And we not dialogue. If we don't talk, there is war. Colombia history. My grandpa, in he knew if you don't talk, well, we kill each other between us. And what happened today, after a very long time, we talk. And I reestablished communication for the very first time. What did I talk with him? Venezuela and the narco traffic topic. I had to talk about the numbers because 20 years risking my life fighting against high-powered drug traffickers, and I like them, and I told them very much of the politics that have came here to Florida and Washington, they are related to drug traffic. But the so-called journalists that haven't lost nor a day or a hour in attacking me and saying lies all the time. Well, her alone, just for example, my political family, one was killed by the paramilitary because he was paramilitary and a killer. Lucas Haneco, he killed Jorge Haneco. Partners of Jorge 40. I won't keep an example that I got along. But many of them that went there, they were seeking violence to not be judged in Colombia, to stop the judge in the politics that they haven't made. Because that's why my defense minister was kicked off of the magistrate, not to keep investigating because he keeps his investigation. And now what we have today is impunity. They investigated us. Against me, they can't find anything because I am stealing anything from the people. I've been because they have made whatever they want with me. I'm kinda innocent, but not dumb. I showed the fact that because governments, the coca plants, they grew with them. And I said that with Maduro was talking about military operations together in the Catatumbo. I told him about the bombardments. So because they were against commands that were never there at the bomb moment. I told how the concussions, drug concussions, growth at that 1,000 tons we will take 3,500 as Iran's. Not any other government of the world, neither Colombia has made that amount of cocaine. I told him. Incauted. I told him that
that
700
700
drugs
drugs
traffickers,
traffickers,
some of
some
them
of
were
them were
extradited with
extradited with
my
my
firm,
firm,
including
including
Piedras
Piedras
Cordova's
Cordova's
brother,
brother,
that I
that I
didn't
didn't
doubt
doubt
to sign my pardon. He was, I never know him. He almost made me a tramp in a hotel, but I imagine it. I talk about the results. Told him the most important, the substitution of plantings, the voluntary plantings is more successful. That's why we could stop the planting, that the substitution, that there are people, injured people, and death for 100 injured from our public force. More with our drones, more than in the direct combat. We can keep doing this. We lost our blood and the plantings expand. That's cool. Dams and liners. And I told him how it was going. 30,000 hectares. The growing rate is higher than the growing rate that coca is being zero. What does it mean? That the cocaines that we had, we encountered more. The majority of that goes to Europe and the United States. That means that we had exposed a significant problem there. Has the consumption to change, and that won't stop if we don't make it to progress the territories today in which the coca plant is cultivated. And then I talk about Venezuela. And I told him, I text you a letter. I write you a letter. I don't know if you read it. Someone could take it even in the Foreign Ministry of Colombia. That letter said we can make an alliance. I told to Biden personally, there is an opportunity, a huge opportunity of the world, the humanity and life needs to stop consuming oil, carbons, and gas in a 75% is the responsible of the climate crisis. And if it grows, we will go from crisis to collapse. Science says, for thousands of scientists from all over the world say it, and if we go from collapse, our grandchilds will die. And as long as that happens, we will leave words in front of the disasters that can be humanity can be. And I said to Trump, the alliance that I brought is about energy, but in clean energy, not carbons or the oil. Because if it's it that threats Venezuela and threats Colombia, and will threat Chile, Argentina for the lithium, and will threat Mexico for oil, and they bombed the most oil country of Africa, that is Nigeria. They want Greenland, my partner, for water that is now frozen, and they know it will melt. A lot of water and fertile probably for the melting of the ice in Greenland. We will have the collapse or the destruction of the Amazon jungle will go to the collapse, and that means that's a difference between crises, because we won't take back for any means And if we can take back, there is marks of extinction of life, and progresses won't allow that the human life disappears from the earth. Well, what was his answer? He just answered, and that's the objectives of this manifestation. Because I want to tell you this. Trump says words have to be followed by actions. It was an honor talk, to talk with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who called me. I was invited to talk with him, and I said, I didn't say no. I almost didn't cry because we were from there. Well, who called me to explain the situation of drugs and other disagreements that we had. I greet his call. I'm waiting to meet with him again. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the Minister of Interior of Colombia. They are making the arrangements, the necessary arrangements. Well, you have to go to the United States. You take a really good translator. The meeting will take place at the White House in Washington, D.C. Precisely for the trip, and this is made real. It will be a lesson. First, the dialogue is fundamental directly. Always. They criticize us to talk with the violent ones. To talk is one thing, be partner is another. I talk to decree the kills and the planting of cocoa plant. That's my objectives. To less dead people. The rate in of deaths here in Colombia are by mercenaries are from the rates of last year, that is the best years, not the best, of the best years of century. And the rates not right now, that there are a few of them to evaluate, but there are less essentially. You know how much it has reduced itself. That had changed respectively of the 2024 term. This time 70% we reduced it. that is due to the people they have to eat. That's simple. And a lot of young people desperate with girlfriend and that ask them to last generation phone. Well, it has a boyfriend out of combat in every part. So the dealer takes the girlfriend. We open free universities. We are done it. We reduce poverty 2.5 million. And there's less poverty, more food, more the salary. The month we are ignorance of the economic theory just because it interests us. Yes, is the more the salary decrease in Colombia, the more poor they are, and we won't progress because of it. But as the fertile land there is from terratinans productive and not from the peasants, well, there won't be accessible food because the peasants. That's why there isn't the inflation, and that's why in older lands we have responded and well lands to the peasants. Food in the cities, look at the food at the supermarkets. More justice, more universities opens freely, less use due to at the age of violence, and we need to do more. But we have demonstrated the forms of government that was in Colombia is going to pay in a semester of 30 million pesos. We have the less numbers of doctors and nurses of all the population. What service are we going to give? So the media outlets ask for the best system of health in Colombia. Almost that we had less mortality in child, the worst rate in motherhood, moms and childs dying for a health system that only Cartagena airport was full of private jets, and a lot of them, the IPS, are private. They steal for billion. I'm not talking with the topic. Let's talk about Trump. Let's continue with Trump. You heard what he said. We talk about other topics in which there are no agreements, but that's the objective. That a peace in Venezuela is a peace in Colombia and vice versa. Peace in Colombia is peace in Venezuela also. And we have to take out the major factor between Colombia and Venezuela that is called ELN, controlling and killing peasants, 200 of the Catatumbo, the Colombian Catatumbo.